Welcome to Living Stones Church. We pray that this message impacts and touches your heart in such a great way. Enjoy the message.
Okay. So with that, I guess I will go ahead and open it up in prayer, and then we will dive into this. God, just again, thank you. Thank you for having us to be able to come to a place of worship, to be with you, to spend time with you, and with one another. It's just, to me, it's so amazing just to have these opportunities to be with my fellow brothers and sisters and just live life together and know that we're there for one another and we support one another, and that you are the mortar that keeps us held together. Like you're the thing that's between us. You fuse us together so that we can support one another. And when one of us is down, you make a way for another to be able to share that love and that gift that you're given to the one that may be in need. And that's just what I love about the body of Christ. It's where one side hurts, the other side can lift it up. And that's what we do for one another, and that's what you allow us to do. Today, as I'm delivering this message that you have given me, just speak through me. Let my words be true, and hopefully that this is something that it can impact others the way that when I read it, it stood out to me and it impacted me and it spoke truth into my life. And I just thank you for all the many blessings that you have done and all these miracles that the member here, the congregation was able to share. It was just amazing to hear that, just to know that you're still just alive today as you were in the times of the Bible when they were writing their stories and they were documenting the things that you were doing then. You're still as much on the move today as you was then. And I just give you the praise and I give you the glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, so today I'm going to be talking a little bit about our doubts and what we have with them. So the message I had up here is I believe, but I have doubts. And I'm sure maybe some of us at some point in time of our life, we probably felt that way. We believe what we're reading in the Bible. We believe things are true, but we have some of those doubts sometimes about, is he going to come through or not, though? And it's during the hard times normally is when those doubts comes in. And that's just some of the stuff that I kind of want to dive into today. And I was going to be talking a little bit about getting it set up. The stage here is about the mountaintops of our spiritual highs that we get to experience at times during the good times. And those are really amazing times that we get to have with God. It's like that's when God is filling us. Those are those moments to where we have that positive can-do attitude. And we just love to watch God on the move. And we just see him coming through time and time again. And it's amazing to really just get to witness that. And we almost get that feeling of just like, hey, world, you know what? Bring it on. Whatever you throw at me, I am ready. There is nothing that is going to stop me. I'm like a freight train that is just on the move for God. To me, when I get those feelings a lot of times, I feel a lot like I did when I was first introduced to Christ. When I met him for the very first time, and just that feeling that I had. That's that feeling I get. It's like how Brooke was talking about that spark. You get that rekindle just going again. And it's so amazing to have those moments. And and we need those moments. In life, we need those moments. Those are the moments to where we get to have that opportunity to recharge our spiritual batteries. It's those moments to where we get to spend that quality time with God and just really build our relationships with him. But then we also know, as much as we like to stay there, in order to get from the mountaintop we're on to the next mountaintop that we need to get to, we got to go through the valleys. We have to. So we can't stay there. But when we go in those valleys, it's the valleys that are hard. It's the valleys that the path isn't always clear. We maybe not always get to see exactly what direction should I be heading in right now. It's like it's all this overgrowth. It's all this stuff that life is throwing at me, and it's confusing me. It's during those times that maybe it gets darker. It's during those times where those struggles start to set in. Real life starts to happen. And we can sometimes start to struggle during those times, and that's where that doubt can kind of come in. But did you know, in those valleys, that is where God actually intended for us to be. That's where he wants us to be. It wasn't designed for us to stay camping on the mountaintops as much as we would love to. It's in the valleys where God intends for us to be. He wants us to be right there with the real people that are hurting, real people that are going through real problems. And that's where we need to be. We need to be there for one another, supporting one another and helping them through. So when I was reading in the Bible, I had came across that when God had called us to go out and make disciples, in order to do that, we would have to make those transitions from mountaintops to mountaintops going into those valleys. And when he called us out, he gave us a reminder that he gave us that commission to go out and make disciples, but he also gave us a promise that he would be there with us. And if you look here in Matthew 28, and it's going to be verses 19 through 20, he talks about this here, where he says, "Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Teach these new disciples to obey all the commandments I have given you, and be sure of this," and this is the part right here, "I am with you always, even to the ends of the ages." So he tells us right there that no matter if we're sitting on the mountaintops, having that morning coffee with him when we got up in the morning and getting ready to break down camp, or if we're down in the valleys struggling, if we're down in the valleys holding our brother's arm, lifting him up and helping carry him, he's there with us always until the ends. And if you actually look in Psalms 28:4, when we're talking about with King David, like he recognized this too. And I like this part, and I'm sure we have all heard this at some point in time, where he was talking about, he said, even though I walk through the darkest valleys, I will not be afraid, for you are close beside me. Your rod and your staff protect and comfort me. So he knew that there were going to be hard times. He knew that. He knows that life isn't always rainbow and sunshine. So that fact that he got that encouragement, even when he was going to be down in the valleys, it's a good reminder for us to know that we also need to look to God during those times. We also need to look to him to strengthen us during those times, and to know that it's okay, and that is part of life. And that having human doubt, that's part of being human. That's part of who we are. And that's okay too. That's okay. We're going to have doubts at times, and that's okay. But that's what God is for, and that's what we're for as brothers and sisters in Christ, is to be there for one another during our moments of struggle, during our moments of when we have that uncertainty. It's going to be okay. So when I was looking at this, I wanted to take a quick look at the 12 disciples that God had picked out. They were just ordinary men, just like us. Like they had no special things about them. They had normal lives, normal people. But God chose them. He chose them, and then he took them on an amazing journey with him. They got to witness amazing things. They got to watch him feed 5,000 on 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. They got to watch him heal the sick, heal the lame, heal the blind. They got to watch him even raise people from the dead. I mean, you talking about a spiritual high, that had to be like amazing mountaintops to be on. So they got to see some really amazing things, and they got to spend some really amazing times with God, being on those mountaintops. But even for them, it wasn't always mountaintops. They also had to go down into the valleys as well. And one of the things that we got to understand is, even here, when they were down in those valleys, like, they knew that God was with them. There's something here, it says, that I'd written down. It says, not only did God get to us, or not only did they get to experience all the miracles that God had for them, but they also had the opportunity to get to perform those miracles as well. And that was in Matthew 10, verse 1. And Jesus, right here, it says, Jesus called his 12 disciples together and gave them the authority to cast out evil spirits and to heal every kind of disease and illness. So they not only had the opportunity to walk with him and get to witness at him do this stuff, but they had the opportunity to go out and perform these miracles themselves. Just like how when God commissions us as disciples, like we have the authority to do that as well. We do. We have the power to go out and do these amazing things that God is giving us. And I mean, man, I feel like sometimes we forget that. We do. We forget exactly what God has empowered us to do. And it's not the lack of his power, but it's the lack of our belief sometimes that is holding us back, that is hindering us from doing amazing and great things. But we're not the only ones. We're not. Believe it or not, the disciples themselves experienced things like this. And this is where I wanted to pick up at. It's going to be in Mark. And this is kind of what the lesson plan today is going to be focused around. It's going to be in Mark 9, and it's going to be verses 14 through 29. And it's going to be telling a story here. And this is going to be a moment where 9 of the disciples were probably witnessing a time where they were maybe having some doubts. They were probably trying to do something that they had done maybe numerous times before. But now all of a sudden, it's not working. And they're probably like, why? What's different this time than the other times? So why is it all those other times when I was on those mountaintops and it was all going good for me? But now I'm doing the exact same thing in the exact same way, the way Jesus taught me to do it, and it is not working. So I'm sure doubt had to set in during that moment. So let's just read here, starting at verse 14. And it said, when they returned to the other disciples, and that's meaning that was Jesus, he had took John, James, and Peter up to the mountain of Transfiguration. And they were coming back down from that mountain. So it says, when they returned to the disciples, they saw a large crowd surrounding them. And some teachers of religious laws were arguing with them. When the crowd saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with awe, and they ran to greet him. What is all this arguing about? Jesus asked. One of the men in the crowd spoke up and said, Teacher, I brought my son so you could heal him. He is possessed by an evil spirit that won't let him talk. And whenever this spirit seizes him, it throws him violently to the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out this evil spirit, but they couldn't do it. Jesus said to them, you faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me. So they brought the boy. But when the evil spirit saw Jesus, it threw the child into a violent convulsion, and he fell to the ground, withering and foaming at the mouth. How long has this been happening? Jesus asked the boy's father. He replied, since he was a little boy. The spirit often throws him into the fire or into the water, trying to kill him. Have mercy on us and help us if you can. What do you mean, if I can? Jesus asked. Anything is possible if a person believes. The father instantly cried out, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. So with that, we can kind of see this whole story of how the disciples were trying to do something. A moment of unbelief is set in. And not only was it from the disciples, but even the father probably had a portion of doubt in that moment as well that we can see here. But Jesus, he responds to him and he lets them know that if you have belief, if you just believe, that anything is possible. So, and that's kind of what I want to do here. I want to kind of dissect this story just a little bit and talk about how it kind of spoke to me. And hopefully this can relate to you as well, and how you walk through your experience in life and how you're walking through life. So my first point here is going to be, there's always something to learn in failure. So even though things don't always go our way, even though we may feel like we failed at something, there's always a takeaway from it, just like there was for the disciples here, just like it was for the Father here, just like it was even for those religious believers or the religious leaders that were probably persecuting the disciples. They all had something to learn from this. So in this one, it says, I'm sure things are possible, or I'm sure things are probably not going very well for the disciples. So you got to think here, like they just tried to do something that they failed at. So now those leaders are probably persecuting them. They're probably hounding them. You got to think these are the same leaders that were trying to constantly trap Jesus. They were always trying to find fault in Jesus all the time. So every little thing that he did, they would try to nitpick it just a little bit. And they would try to be like, oh, but what about this? So, Father, what would I do if someone did this? So they were always trying to back him into a corner and trap him. And we know, even in life, we know that you can't please everyone. Like, no matter how pure our intentions are, no matter how honest our motives are, when we try to do things, there's always going to be someone that is going to oppose you. And we know this. That's just the way life is. There's going to be someone that is going to be like that. And for Jesus, a lot of times it was those religious leaders that would try to oppose him. And they were trying to always trap him. And they wouldn't only go after him, but they would try to go after his disciples as well, as seen here. When they saw the opportunity that the disciples failed, they said, this is the perfect moment that we can sneak in and we can ambush them. And even more so, Jesus, he's not even here. So this is like the perfect opportunity to show the crowd that Jesus, does he really have the power? Is he really the answer? I mean, look, this is his disciples. They were handpicked by him. They were trained by him. They were given the authority by him. And they can't do it. So they were probably handling them pretty good. And at that point, I would say the disciples that were there, I can only imagine how I would feel. I would almost feel like the wind would have been taken like out of my sail. I would be like, oh man, like what do I do? I mean, me like standing up here right now with nothing left to say, and then I'm just kind of like sitting there at the mercy of you mad dogging me with your stares, or the mercy of you like standing up and accusing me, and I have nothing to stand back on at this point. I'm like, I don't know. So, and I'm sure that's probably how they felt. But then Jesus does come, and he walks down, and then he questions them, hey, what is going on here? And that's where we kind of pick up at this part when Jesus comes into the crowd, as we can see in Mark 9:17-8 again. And he asks, he said, so what's all this arguing about? Like what's the commotion? And then one of the men in the crowd, he spoke up, and he did. He said, teacher, I brought my son so you could heal him. He is possessed by an evil spirit that won't let him talk. And whenever this spirit seizes him, it throws him violently to the ground. Then he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes rigid. So I asked your disciples to cast out this evil spirit, but they couldn't do it. So, I mean, that right there is probably also putting doubt in the father, in the boy's father, because he brought this son of his to the disciples, and when they couldn't do it, even when Jesus showed up, he was probably starting to have doubts. Not only within the disciples, but probably also within Jesus as well. That we'll later see. It's like his doubts were starting to form because he's in the valley. This is a time in his life where his son's sick. His son has been like this since he was just a little child. So, I mean, this has been a very long trek for him. Talking about a long valley to be in, that had to be a very long valley. So at this point, like, hope for him is probably starting to grow smaller and smaller and smaller. So he's grasping at anything. Like, please, God, help me. Help me if you can at this point. So with the disciples not being able to do this, like I said earlier, I'm sure they were very embarrassed about this. And I'm sure, like, They were just didn't know what to do. And they would have probably, in all honesty, they're probably glad when they saw Jesus coming down from the mountain. They're probably like, oh my goodness, finally, Jesus is coming to my rescue to help me, because I feel like I've, for once, gotten in over my head. I don't know how I did this. I don't know what I did wrong this time, but for some reason, I've gotten in over my head. But you know, it was with this that we also need to take into consideration that during these moments when we feel this way, that we don't have to look to ourselves, though, for that redemption. Like when we feel as though we failed at something, and I don't even like to say the word that they failed. I'm just sure they felt that way. But when we feel as though we failed at something, we don't have to look at ourselves for redemption. We go to God for that redemption. It's not in us. So when we feel like that way, and we feel like, man, I've let God down again, or I've let my family down again, or let my friends down again, or my coworker down again. But when we feel that feeling of failure, we don't have to seek us. We don't have to turn to us. We turn to God. And when others start to try to maybe persecute you or call you out, like, you failed at this, it was you. It was your fault. And like, when you have your accusers, like, even with that, the only thing we can do is point them back to God. Point them back to the one that is never going to fail. Jesus never fails. He never fails us. He's always there. He knows exactly what he's doing. And when someone is accusing us of something, we can only say, you know what, I'm human, and maybe I made this mistake, maybe I failed at this, but God doesn't. And that's what we need to look to. We need to look to God during these moments. And what we need to do is try to be more like that crowd was. And if we look here in Mark 9:15, I really like this right here, where it says, when the crowd saw Jesus, they were overwhelmed with awe, and they ran to greet him. They didn't start pointing fingers. They didn't start laying blame. I mean, to them, they were just in awe to see Jesus. And they ran to greet him. They were happy. And that's how we need to be. So like in our moments when things aren't going right, we shouldn't be trying to point fingers or lay blame. We should always be running to Christ, running back to God, running back to the one. And I just love that. I loved how they did that, which kind of points me back into my second point here, which is going to be, it's not the size of our faith, but the power of our God. So we deal with faith, but then we have doubt. So if we're relying on our faith to be the power and the strength that we're pulling from all the time, what does that look like? So is my faith like this constant norm? On a plane? I don't know about you, but I know mine's not. Like, I have my moments. Like, I have moments to where I feel really connected with God. I feel like I'm hearing exactly what God's telling me to do. I feel like I got direction that God's sending me to. I feel like I got purpose that God has called me into. But then there's times of quiet. There's times to where I'm not for sure. There's times of that doubt. And then I have those moments in life to where it's like this. But God is a constant. So that's what I need to lean toward, is God. Not rely on just the power of just me and how I'm feeling in that moment. Because that is not where I want to. And I think, oh, there we go. And it's here in Mark 9:19 that I'm referring to. When God, he comes down, the crowd sees him, they run in awe, and I'm sure everyone is expecting God to do some great miracle now, because Jesus is here. Jesus just showed up. He's going to speak some great words of wisdom, and he's going to perform this awesome miracle, right? Because that's what Jesus does, right? Well, in this case, let's see what Jesus says here. So in Mark 9:19, Jesus said to them, "You faithless people, how long must I be with you? How long must I put up with you? Bring the boy to me." I'm sure that is not what they were expecting to hear, right? I mean, it's like, ouch. So now when he was saying that, I would have to say you got to take maybe some things into consideration. He was just coming off of the mountain of transfiguration, so he just had a moment with God, right? So I would say even Jesus within himself just witnessed a spiritual high. So, and now he's coming off the mountain into the valley, back to us, back to people that don't believe, that people that have doubts, people that have their moments. So I feel like maybe some of this could have been even just out of that, just that spiritual high that he had to where he is now. The other part of that I also feel is a huge portion of that was probably directed toward the disciples of his. Because if you actually look, the crowd was happy to see him. They ran to him. So I'm sure the majority of them probably did have some belief that something amazing was about to happen. The religious leaders, I don't think Jesus was expecting them to have much belief in him to begin with, because they were always trying to hem him up. The boy's father was bringing his son to him in hopes to have a miracle performed. So, I mean, it really only kind of leaves those 9 disciples that were probably the only ones that truly were feeling some true doubts at that moment, some true like, oh man, like what is happening here moments that we probably feel in life sometimes when we're in the valley and we don't know exactly what's happening, and we're like, I don't know. God, like, where are you right now? What should I do right now? Where should I go right now? And then we listen, but we don't hear anything. Or we look, but yet we don't see anything. So that's probably how they felt at that moment. And when God was speaking to him, I truly feel that that's the disciples is who he was speaking to, when he was kind of maybe a little like grieved at their lack of unbelief. When they try to do something and when it didn't happen, then how easily their doubts start to set in, as it is with us sometimes. When we experience things in life and then our doubts can come in when things don't quite go the way we were hoping for them to go. It starts to just creep in a little by little. So it was something I would like to look at here, and it's going to be in Hebrews. But before I pull this up, it's just like something I want you to kind of remember or to take away from this is that in situations like this, to where we have doubt, we got to understand that there's no power in unbelief. Like, there's no room for it. We can't defeat Satan. We can't overcome Satan using unbelief. It's not going to happen. So we have to have belief that God's going to come through. We got to have our faith that He is there with us, and He is going to get us through it. He's going to provide us with whatever it is that we need. Not what we want, but what we need to get through each time that we're going through these valleys. He is going to provide that for us. And we just got to believe that. We got to have faith in that. That's what gets us through. And as it talks about here in Hebrews 11:6, and it says, "And it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to Him must believe that God exists and that He rewards those who sincerely seek Him." So that tells me right there that it's impossible to please God unless we have faith in Him. So we got to believe. We have to. We have to bring our troubles to Him with the belief that He is going to come through. And it also talks about in Matthew 17, 17:20 about the amount of belief or the amount of faith. So, because when it says here in Hebrews, when it's talking about you have to have so much, in order to please God, you got to have that faith. You got to have that belief in God. But then that leaves that question of, well, how much? Like, how much faith do I need? How much is it going to take to actually please God, to honor God? So here in Matthew's 17:20, and it says, you don't have enough faith, Jesus told them. I tell you the truth. If you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, you could say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it would move. Nothing would be impossible. So when we question ourselves like, well, do I have enough faith? I would say, well, do you have any? Because if you had any faith, that's enough faith. I mean, if I'm reading that correctly in Matthew, when it says the size of a mustard seed, because we know a mustard seed is super tiny, it is small. So any faith is enough faith. Any faith is enough faith. So it's not the key is not the depth of our faith, but it's the direction of our faith. It's not the potency of our faith, but it's the person that we put our faith in. So that's the key to it. It's not the depth, it's the direction. It's not the potency. It's going to be the person that we're putting it in. And if we're putting our faith in God, that's where it matters. That's what it's about. Because a little faith in a great Savior can get amazing things done. It can. It truly can. So as we're continuing on here, and when Jesus had asked for the Father to bring the boy to him, we can see in Matthew's 9:22 when Jesus. Sorry about that. I skipped a spot here, and it says the Father, for an instance, when he was looking to Jesus in the right direction, so he knew who to look to. He may not have had all the faith to heal his son, but he knew who to look to do that. And that's where it was in Matthew's 9:22, when he had brought his son, he had brought his son to Jesus. And he had told Jesus about what was happening. He's like, hey, Jesus, this is what is happening with my son. Can you help him? So he was going to the right person. He was bringing his son to the right person. So at least he had going in the right direction. I guess his question would have been, though, is he had I know that Jesus would heal my son. But at this point, he was probably thinking, can he heal my son? Because he's starting to have some doubt at this point, I would imagine, because he just witnessed the disciples not able to do it. So maybe there was a part of him, maybe there's a human side of him that we all have that's like, I really want to believe this. Like, I know Jesus would do this. I know he would, but can he? Can he come through on this particular thing that I'm going through? And it reminds me also just like the leopard. Remember that story about the leopard that comes and he asked God if he could heal him, and that would have been in Mark 1 verses 40 through 42, when it talks about and the man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus, and he begged to be healed. If you are willing, can you heal and make me clean? He said. Remove the move with compassion. Sorry about that. move with compassion. Jesus reached out and touched him. I am willing, he said. Be healed. Instantly, the leprosy disappeared and the man was healed. So in this moment, when you see here, like, he knew that Jesus could. He knew it. His question is would Jesus? Are you willing? I know you can do it, but are you willing to do it? And when we look at the Father's like, I know you would, Jesus, but can you heal my son? So what we have to remember when it comes to faith, faith works best when we add the could and the would together. Meaning, Jesus, I know you can and I know you will. Because when we add that together, that's where the power is formed. I know you can and I know you will. And that's where the disciples were maybe missing the point in that particular moment, as they kind of lost the sight of, I know you can and I know you will. But that's okay, because we all have those moments to where we maybe have one or the other, just like the leopard or the father. Maybe we know he would, but could he? Or I know he could, but will he? Like, is he going to do it for me? He does it for others, but I don't know if he's going to do it for me. Am I worthy enough? But remember, he can and he will. Which takes me to my third point. The more we know, the more we grow. And here, this is what I love in Jesus' response to the Father. When he asked in 23, Mark 9:23, he says, what do you mean if I can? Jesus asked. Anything is possible if a person believes. So I can only imagine what Jesus was thinking in this moment. You have this Father that says, basically, can you? Can you do this for me? And he's probably thinking like, have you not seen the things that I've done? Have I not done greater things? Have I not performed greater miracles? But yet you still, time and time again, you come with doubt. You come with unbelief that I can't do this for you, that I will not do this for you. And I'm sure this is grieving to Jesus in these moments. But he uses these opportunities, though. He uses these opportunities to teach us and to show us and to remind us that it's him that we have to rely on, that it's his power that we have to rely on. And Jesus reminds the Father of the power of belief when he tells him, like, anything is possible if a person just believes. He reminds him of that power. Like, hey, if you believe, anything can happen. Anything. And then the Father's response to that is a response that many of us probably have said at some point in time in some way, shape, or form. At least I know I have. In Mark 9:14, or in Mark 9:24, when he says, the Father cried out, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. So, it's like, those are the moments. Those are the moments that our human side of us are truly showing, where we cry out and we're like, God, just help me. Like, I know you can do this. I believe, I have faith, I read your word, I know it's true. But why do I have these doubts? Why do these doubts come in every time I have hardship? Why? Like, help me overcome this. This is the part that I truly got to be able to overcome. And the Father recognized that. He recognized that he needed to overcome those moments of doubt, that he could be able to put his faith even in a circumstance that started to look very grim in terms of Jesus being able to come through, because he had already witnessed the many years from his son being just a little boy to bringing him to the disciples that have performed these type of miracles time and time again, because God had given them the authority to do so, and watching that fail to the point that where Jesus is now showing up. So now at this point, he's probably starting to really lose hope and his doubt, and he recognizes that, and he's reminded of that, and he cries out for God to help him with that. And I feel like that's where I want to grow my faith at too, is in that. And it's not just the Father that has those type of doubts either. And it's not just us. It wasn't even just the disciples at that time. There's other times in the Bible that we see doubt. I mean, we all know the story of Thomas, right? Remember Thomas? When the other disciples had talked about they had witnessed Jesus coming, but he wasn't there. He missed that one. And then he didn't believe them. He's like, I'm not going to believe this. He said, until I see Jesus for myself, when he came back from the dead, when he said, until I see Jesus for myself, until I'm able to put my fingers in his side where the spear was, or in the holes in his hands where the nails were, until I am able to do this, I don't believe you. He had his doubts. And we see that in John 29 right here. And it says, then Jesus told him, and he's talking to Thomas here, you believe because you see me. Blessed are those who believe me without seeing me. And that's how even the Father. So that Father, he's standing right in front of Jesus in that moment, like the living, breathing Jesus in that moment. And he has at least, at a minimum, heard of all the greatness that Jesus has done. Because if he hadn't, he wouldn't be there. He would never even brought a son there. And even during that moment, he had doubt. And Thomas walked alongside Jesus. Got to experience all the great miracles that Jesus performed. Got to perform great miracles himself through the authority that Jesus had given him. And he had doubt. But yet, Jesus talks about here, how greater is it for us who have not seen, but yet believe. And that is amazing. So I just want to say it's okay to have doubts. It's okay. It's okay to have doubts, but we can't lose our faith. We got to continue to believe. We got to know that God is going to come through for us and that he will be there for us. And that it's in these moments of trouble, in these moments in the valleys, when we're walking through these valleys, these are the moments that we actually get to see our faith and where our faith is. We don't get to test our faith. We can't say that we have faith when everything is sunshine, when everything is a nice, cool summer breeze. I can't say, like, I have faith. I have faith that God's going to do this. I have faith that God's going to do that, because in that moment, God has done. He has already come through with you on everything. That's not the moments that our faith is tested. It's down in the valleys. It's down in those moments where we have that doubt. It's down in those moments where the fear is set in. It's down in those moments where we are uncertain. We can't see clearly which way we should be going. We don't know what God is calling us to do. We're like, God, where are you in this moment? Where are you? Those are the moments where our faith grows. Our faith is strengthened. And how do we do this? How do we ensure that we're preparing ourselves for these moments to allow our faith to grow? I would say we're doing it right now, right here. When we come together like this, when we're here for one another and we're talking about God, it's in those moments that we are able to share our stories and lift one another up. That grows our faith. It's in those moments that we are in the Word, when you're by yourself and you're reading the Bible and you're strengthening your faith. But I would say most importantly, your faith grows from that relationship, that personal relationship that you start to communicate through him. Because it's the more you know about Jesus, the more you grow closer to him, the more trust you're going to put in him. It's just like with us, even as humans. It's how much trust do you put in someone that you don't know nothing about? It's hard to put trust into a complete stranger. But when you come to know that person, when you spend quality time with that person, and you go and you do things with that person, you start to build that trust in that person. And I say God is just like that. So when we come to know him, when we spend our quality time with him, our trust in him grows. And we're able to put our faith in him so that when these hard times come, then we know, because our faith is strengthened. It's strengthened. So I would just like to say this, is that it's in those moments in the valleys that we find that Jesus is with us. He's with us. It's just where are we choosing for him to be? Do we want him to be walking behind us? We can. He's still with us. But if I'm having him walk behind me, then maybe I am sometimes uncertain on which way to go. Maybe I'm constantly looking back like, do I go left or do I go right here, Jesus? I don't know. I could put him in front of me, and I could be following him, and that's good too. And then when he takes a left or takes a right, I know this. But then I think about it like, that's good because I can follow him. But what happens when I want to just talk with him as we're walking along that trail? So I would say for me, the best place to have him is right beside me. That's where I want him to be. I want him to be right there with me as I'm walking along that trail. As I'm walking through those valleys from mountaintop to mountaintop, I want him to be right there with me so that I know that he helps strengthen my faith and he takes away that doubt. So today, I would like to have that opportunity just to share with you, or to open it up for you as well, that if you want to rekindle that flame with God, like if you want to be like, man, now that I think about it, there are my moments that I have those doubts, that I do just wonder, like, God, are you really going to come through on this? Or I know you have the power, but I don't know if I'm personally important enough for you to do this for me. Or is this something that's too small for your radar? You got bigger problems going on than this, God. But I want you to understand that it's not. Everything, if it matters to you, it matters to him. So if you want to rekindle those flames with him, or if your faith is already strong with him and you just want to make sure you're maintaining that strong faith, or if this is a new walk that you've had with him, it's something new that you're like, you know what, I've heard about God, I've heard about Jesus, I've heard the stories, and I've read a little bit into the Bible, but I personally want to know him. I want that true personal relationship with him. Then I invite you today to take that opportunity to do that, to just bring it all to him. Bring whatever it is that, if you're in a valley right now, bring your troubles to him. If you're on a mountaintop right now, share your praise and help your brothers that are maybe in the valley. And just bring your gratitude to God if you're on a mountaintop. That you are on the mountaintop and that you're able to experience that time with him. Bring that to him. And if you want to get to know him, then come and invite him into your life. So let him know, like, God, I want you in my life. I want that relationship with you. I want to know that I know hard times are going to come. That's life. I'm not even asking for you to take that away, because we know that part of life, part of living on this world that has death and decay and destruction, that we can't take ourselves out of the picture of not being exposed to it. But I want to know that you're there with me for it, and that you can strengthen me. So I would just like to open up the altar today for everyone that would like to come. And if it's your gratitude you're bringing, if it's your invite to God to have that personal relationship that you want to bring, or if it's maybe some doubts or some troubles or your concerns that you want to bring to God, I just offer you to come up to the altar and bring that to God. So as the worship team displays in the background here, if that's something you want to do, please just take this moment and let's bring it to God.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope this message blessed your life in such a powerful way. Come visit us here at Livingstone's Church in person at Dorothy McElhenney Middle School in French Valley, California, every Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. You can also watch us online on our YouTube channel, Facebook, Church Center, or at livingstones.tv. If God is using this ministry to touch and impact your life, and you would like to consider partnering with us in your giving, You can do so by giving in the Church Center app or by going to livingstones.tv/giving. We hope you have a wonderful week.